Today, we open to a land far removed from the vibrant streets of Horizon City. A sky of soot, ash, and smog casts shadow over endless reaches of sand. An abrasive wind blows on occasion, but there is no comfort to this land's heat. In all ways, the air is humid and harsh. The only signs of life are the occasional remnants of cities peeking from the sand, but even these errant fragments of infrastructure are nothing more than tombstones. Life cannot exist in the Deadlands. Not anymore. The panels of our opening take us from sandy vista to sandy vista. The polluted air makes it impossible to see more than a few yards away at a time, and the only sound we have is that of the wind. But wait, there's more to it. A whisper, perhaps. A calling.
Rise.
We move faster than any person should traverse these lands. There's something here we need. Starved, we can feel its presence as if it calls to us.
Rise from your tomb.
There. The sand shifts. It's a subtle thing, but there's movement.
For 100 years, you've slumbered.
Yes, swirling, sand withdrawing into the earth, something is rising.
Stripped of the gifts granted by gods, imprisoned at their will. It is time for you to rise.
An outward explosion of sand reveals two large, outstretched skeletal wings, each dressed in gray, matted feathers. A humanoid figure begins to pull itself from the ground.
Time for you to worship a new god.
With jagged motions, the wings pull back on the figure. We now see him to be a tall man, though his flesh appears gray and dry, as if every ounce of liquid had been exhumed from his body. He wears nothing but rags that begin to fall apart with even the slightest gust. His eyes are sunken and hollow.
Rise from your tomb and serve Pharaoh.
Hello once again. This is a critically accursed podcast bringing to you our game of Masks, taking place in a futuristic setting of Horizon City. And with me today is one of 5 players for this fun little story. Danielle, say hi to the entire internet.
Hello, entire internet.
In this fancy little game of heroes and hormones, you chose to play a playbook called The Legacy. Can you tell me what The Legacy is bringing to our gaming table?
The Legacy is bringing family lineage of heroes, a grandfather, a father, a mother, and a daughter, all with completely different views on how to be a superhero. And a lot of responsibility. So some of them want her to uphold the traditions. Some in her family may want her to go a different route, focusing on school, some focusing on hero activities, some in between. Lot of responsibility and pressure placed on a young teenager.
Let me ask you, what drove you to choose the Legacy? There's a handful of playbooks, like 10 or something, and then some extra ones. What stuck out about the Legacy that made you go, yeah, this is the character I want to play today?
Well, I've never really played a superhero game before, and I just really felt like being that kind of stereotypical hero. I mean, my character has super strength, invincibility, and flight. Like, that is kind of Superman-ish, like the like one of the first superheroes you can think of. So I wanted to try and be somewhat of the trope, but also I thought it was interesting to play with the idea that they are a legacy and their family's going to have some impact on them and their decisions. And
right. And for me, I think legacy heroes are incredibly interesting in concept, because legacy heroes build up the identity of the hero, and it gets passed on either through a family or through like apprentices and stuff like that. And the notion that you can have multiple individuals in like across generations, but they all wear the same mask and carry on that legacy is interesting to me from a character-driven storytelling standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's also interesting having a hero that wants to uphold the same traditions, but also try and break out and be their own person. So that's kind of how I see the Legacy.
Yeah, and that's where you get a lot of the... I think that's where you're going to get a lot of the teenage drama and teenage angst that this game tries to offer. Danielle, you and I are recording this intro in post. We've already recorded the prelude. You and I know exactly what happens, and we're not going to tell anyone, because that's the reason they're here to listen.
Oh my gosh.
But, Danielle, I did realize that I fucked up in your prelude. I messed up big time. And as someone who's been running games for years and years, I can't believe that I forgot to do something very important. Never once in your prelude did I ask you to describe your character to me. So if they just went in blind, they'd have no idea visually what your character looks like. So I'm going to ask you now, can you describe to me, give me your character's name and physical description, please?
Sky Valor, but more commonly by friends and family known as Madison Meyers. I believe she was taller, taller for a high schooler. She has like purple hair. It's like a mix of purple and black, and it's shoulder length, wavy. She's like that taller, thin body type. She's super strong, but I don't imagine her to be overly muscular. It's like deceivingly muscular. I think I described her as having like a grayish purple eyes. I imagine her regular casual clothes. She'd probably wear what's trending, I think. So whatever's trending in the future, but if it were right now, it would probably be like ripped jeans. So I don't know, maybe they make jeans more ripped somehow.
It's smart clothing, so jeans that self-rip can then repair and rip differently.
Oh, you rip them different every day?
Yeah, that sounds future-y.
And then, not like a hoodie, because that's like not trendy enough.
Yeah, it's lame.
Yeah, that's
Only
lame.
lame people wear hoodies.
Probably just a little bit of a nicer shirt. I don't know. Button down seems a little lame, but maybe like that one with like the one button.
It's technically a button down. Technically. Yeah. Please describe her costume.
Yeah, so it's like a dark navy blue color. Really what it looks like is just a long sleeve kind of jumpsuit. She's got gray boots with orange at the top, gray gloves. It's got like a little bit of a V-neck and a collar. One of those trendy collars that it doesn't fully flip. A little bit of orange by the collar. She has a V on her like neck for Valor. It's like in the front of her shirt.
Great. Cool. So now that we've corrected my mistakes from the prelude, I think we can let people actually listen to the story. So this is our fourth prelude, The Legacy. Please enjoy. Have a good time. I'll see you at the end. So I think to kick things off, or to ease into things anyways, the best thing to do would be to get an idea / establish kind of the daily life / routine of Madison Meyers, aka Sky Valor. Now, this story takes place in the futuristic setting of Horizon City in the year 2172. Horizon City being kind of a pinnacle of human achievement at this time. It's a city that was basically built from the ground up and encompasses like leading technology, leading cultural ideas. It is the city that much of the world looks to as kind of like what a quote unquote modern city should be. To that extent, the one thing that I've been doing in everyone's prelude is I've been asking everyone a question. And the question is, I want you to give me one interesting piece of information pertaining to the setting, to Horizon City, such as like technological advancement or like a cultural norm that is interesting.
What if there's no cash anymore? It's just all card. I don't know. That might just not be even like worth it, but maybe there's not even any banks because you don't need to get any money out.
There's no physical currency anymore. It's all based on maybe even like chips.
Or like a Bitcoin. Yeah.
Or like everything's linked through like Wi-Fi that just exists everywhere. So you can basically like take out your phone or your phone, whatever this future phone is, and just pay it by like waving in front of a scanner or something. And it just automatically comes out of your account.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have a little bit of that now, but this is like extreme. Like we're on coin shortages nowadays. Like there are no coins. Mm-hmm. Like you cannot find coins. If you find a coin, it is like rare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, cool. I like it. There's no physical currency anymore. No one carries money, and robbing people of money is basically entirely done through like hacking, I guess.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one gets mugged in the street anymore for money anyways, mostly just for material belongings. That's neat.
Yeah, that is an interesting dynamic, actually. Mm-hmm. There's no bank robberies because there's no banks.
Right. So you've solved a portion of crime as well because banks don't get robbed.
Wait, but we're heroes. Should I have done that?
Yeah, it's fine. I'll just have to make up other crimes. I'll have to make up future crimes for you to solve. Having said that and established the setting, I think that I would like to just have you describe to me what a typical day looks like for Madison.
She wakes up and her mom makes her some breakfast, probably, at least most of the time. Then she gets ready for school and flies there probably.
Nice.
If she can.
Yep.
I mean, she doesn't need to take free public transport because she could just fly there.
Flying's faster.
And you get to experience all of the scenery while you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So then at school, she goes through her classes. Do you need like, I mean, she's probably in like some AP classes. I don't know if you need specifics.
Oh, not really. Is she a good student?
Yeah. I figure though, because of her background, that she'd be pretty popular, but she's not trying to be like a popular, like mean person in the school. She's just kind of like, she hangs around with them, but she's still like, you know, is good at school. And
yeah, she's one of those kids who just like naturally other kids gravitate towards. And...
yeah, she knows probably almost everybody in the school or has at least talked to them once. She takes her AP classes and then she's very involved with the school. Afterwards, she probably has 1 to 2 extracurriculars before she goes home. The club.
The club, yes.
It's the clubs where you learn about all the other clubs. No. She clubs and sports after school, and then when she goes home, I assume would like sit down at dinner with her parents, and when they get along, they really get along. Mm-hmm. And as long as she's doing kind of what they expect her to do, then they're like the perfect family. I figure they always kind of try to appear to the public as like the perfect family. But if something happens where she like rebels or she does something that they don't approve of, then it gets ugly. Then they have like maybe screaming matches, stuff like that. If they were to have a big fight like that, then if she's really upset and they get into a really big fight, then she might go out to, I thought of an abandoned house on the edge of town, on the edge of the city, and hang out there. The big secret is like what she does in the house. She actually listens to teen heartthrob music. Like I named one. I named him Tyler Cadence.
Okay.
And if she's at a really bad day, she might sing along and dance very embarrassingly, so she can never tell anybody about that. But that's like her escape, that if they get into a big fight, then she'll leave and go to the abandoned house.
So like when family life gets rough, she just like swings out to this empty location and goes all footloose all over the joint for a while.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think that paints kind of a very solid, straightforward picture of what anyone might expect, like peeking in on Madison's day-to-day life. I'm assuming, actually, I don't want to assume. Let me ask you, does she do like superhero patrol?
Yeah, probably sometimes. I don't know, maybe she has a schedule.
Okay, so there's, I'm going to say, and you can correct me if you think otherwise, but maybe an hour every night just set aside to fly around the city.
Yeah, and one of their big fights might be if she like didn't show up or didn't go where they expected her to go or something.
So I imagine that her father, Laser Valor, like has this routine set up, and I almost want to say that, you know, your mom probably finds like you having to go out an hour every single night to patrol the city to be like a little ridiculous.
I don't think that she would tell my father not to have me do it.
No, but that's probably the source of some of the fights within the family every once in a while. Like you don't show up for the scheduled patrol, and you know your dad makes a big deal out of it, but your mom is kind of like on your side for that fight.
So it might not be like always them both against me. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I figure, and if you ever need a reason why she would have skipped a patrol, it's probably like, I don't know, some club or like a soccer game or something. Something that probably happened from like, it was probably a school event.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
yeah.
like, I wanted to go to the dance.
Right. So, yeah, okay. Actually, legitimately starting with the story now. The way I've been doing the preludes and the way I'll probably be carrying forward with the game is to begin describing the story and the game itself in terms of comic book panels. I'm going to deviate from that idea even just a little bit to start Madison's story. Because Madison is the legacy playbook, and, you know, her family and her family's history as being heroes is a core element of this playbook. Instead of starting by describing comic book panels, I kind of imagine that if someone went into a comic book shop and was like, wow, Sky Valor, issue 1, you know, they pick it up and they turn to the first page. Instead of comic book panels, I almost want to start by saying it's the page opens, the first 2 pages when the comic book opens is like opening up a photo album of events in your family history, you know, of Madison's young life.
I thought of one.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a toddler, maybe 2 or 3,
mm-hmm.
and she's sitting at her table for getting ready to eat some birthday cake.
Right.
On her birthday. Her father uses his laser eyes to light the candles.
Okay, so the photo's like snapped mid laser beam, so it actually catches the lasers like halfway out of his eyes.
Yeah.
And maybe she as a toddler sitting at the table just has like those wide, like confused but whimsical baby eyes, just like, wow, this is so cool. That sort of like baby expression where they have no idea what's going on, but they're so excited.
Yeah, she probably never saw that before.
Right. And your dad, Laser Valor, might even be standing there in the hero pose with like his hands on his hip, but he's glancing off to the side and just like shooting out the laser beams from his eyes. That's great.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, that's good.
maybe when she's a little bit older, maybe like 6, I picture like a Christmas photo with her grandfather, Valor, and her grandmother, who is now passed away. Maybe in her lap is a little puppy that they got her for Christmas. It's kind of like a normal family photo, but like with them and the dog. And maybe she's just like super excited that they got her a puppy.
Yeah, you know what? And I like that one as being just like a perfectly normal family photo. Like no one's in costume. You know, there's nothing crazy happening.
Yeah, perfectly normal.
Yeah. You know, maybe your dad's even in the background or your mom's in the background of this one, tidying up the tree or putting something on the tree or something. You know,
Yeah.
It's just a super wholesome picture. I think I if you don't mind me inserting one, we maybe go back and forth a little bit and, you know, just to see how the album fills out. But I would like to do the newborn hospital picture with your mom in the hospital bed and your dad sitting at a chair next to it. And in this particular like newborn picture, I think this is like your grandfather's in it too, and he's there, but he's in costume. You know, like he showed up to the hospital in costume and he's holding you. And the expression on his face is just this pure joy. Like you can even see in the photo that his eyes are like watering, that he's just like so happy to have a grandchild. And, you know, your mom and your dad are looking at him just maybe even a little bit in awe, you know, just seeing him so moved in that particular moment.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do a few more photos. What's another one?
They have to go in order?
Not really.
Because I definitely want to add one of when she first discovered her powers. Maybe a candid photo that one of the other kids took of her just like go like mid about to like wind up to punch or kick or whatever, like before when she found out that she had the powers. So like this is like the middle of the cafeteria. And, like, somebody just snapshots her just, like, about to punch this kid.
Yeah, so that's, yeah. It's definitely...
It's, like, a little blurry.
Yeah, and she probably has this very serious expression on her face.
Yeah. And then, like, to go along with that, maybe shortly after, maybe it's another birthday or something, and it's the next one, and she opens up a box. And the photo is of her looking down into the box, and there's the first costume. I mean, I'm sure it's not this costume, but her first hero costume. And it was probably really based off of her father's, because I assume her father got it for her, and it's like a kid size. Because she was like in 8th grade, so she was probably still like at the end of like the kid sizes.
Yeah. And her grandfather's like peeking over her shoulder, looking at it too, and he is maybe even more excited than she is at seeing the costume. And of course, then maybe like a follow-up picture of her in the costume that was taken like 10 minutes later.
Yeah, and then her grandfather or her father asked her to pose, and maybe they posed next to her. That seems like it'd be cute.
Oh, or like all three of you, yeah, and your mom's taking the picture.
Yeah. And then a subsequent picture that they always do where they're like, oh, you could come into this. So then one of them goes out and because she used to be a hero, she comes in.
Right.
They're like, they feel bad that she's not in it. So they're like, okay, we'll switch out.
Yeah. How about also another picture after she found out she had powers, and this is like an aerial picture that she took, and it's of like maybe her family or her grandfather, but like shortly after she learned to fly, she like I imagine it being like, oh, she learned that she could fly, and then she came home to tell everyone, and just like started flying around. And this is a picture she took in the air. But who is she taking the picture of, or what is she taking the picture of while she's flying around?
I don't know, probably all of them from a top view. Or maybe she like flips it backwards and she's trying to like fly while taking a selfie.
You know what? That's so much better. It's definitely her taking a selfie while she's flying. Yeah, there's like a top of a tree in the background and some buildings, so you know she's up in the air.
Yeah, I like that one. Takes a selfie next to like a plane or something.
Yeah. And maybe we can also slap into the photo album. It wouldn't be a cutout of a newspaper because newspapers don't exist anymore. It's all digital. So maybe it's just like a snapshot of a newspaper of or a news article of when Valor locked away Acyyd Splash. And it has like a picture of her grandfather holding Acyyd Splash cuffed, and like dragging him off to jail.
Yeah.
Or to like a police car or something. Probably not jail.
No, I like that one.
Yeah.
The cutout.
Yeah. How about you, since we had a lot of wholesome ideas here, can you give me a sad picture too that's included in this bunch?
Yeah, I thought of one of like maybe from the hospital with Valor's wife. He's probably holding her hand in the hospital bed, and Sky might be on the other side.
Yeah, it's a really somber photo of her grandmother's, like last day in the hospital. I think in a lot of these pictures, your grandfather is proud of his uniform. He's proud of his legacy and he's proud that it's continued on. So in a lot of these pictures, I feel like he's wearing his uniform, or at least like the insignia somewhere. Maybe he has like pins that he attaches.
Or even like some people, like if he had like a baseball cap, like he's his own fan, his own merchandise.
Yeah, he definitely has like a baseball cap with a caricature of himself on it, giving like a thumbs up. Yeah, this hospital picture, I think it's obvious he's in just purely plain clothes.
I think he looked like he hasn't slept in days, all disheveled, but somber. He's happy to have the last moments that he had.
And are there any other pictures you would like to add to this photo album? Oh, maybe like another news clipping of like your first bad guy.
Yeah, it could be something super minor.
Yeah. Okay. What is the first thing that Madison did as Sky Valor? It doesn't necessarily be like, apprehend, criminal. It could even be like rescuing a kid from a tree or something like that. But what is the first thing she actually accomplished as Sky Valor?
Flying a kid away from a car that was about to hit them.
Right. So the newspaper snapshot is of like Sky Valor next to this kid and the kid's parents. And, it reads about how she saved the kid from getting run over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at the top of this like 2-page photo album splash we got, there's, like a title of some sort. The generic one would say like memory, but that's a bit generic. What's the quote unquote title of like this cover?
Valor Family Moments or something?
Valor Family Moments? Yeah.
I guess. It's not more.
No, that's fine. I think that's fine. Yeah, so it's, Valor Family Moments. And, it has all these pictures of notable moments in the Valor family history, the Meyers family history. I think like once the reader of this potential comic book flips the page and gets to the comic proper, we probably get a few panels of Madison's daily life. And where I want to set this particular story for her is at the end of her sophomore year of high school, maybe like a month before summer break actually hits. So we went over what her daily life looks like, but to kind of like paint a page or two in terms of panels, what is it like from her like waking up in bed in the first panel and going to school? Can you just give me a quick rundown? Basically the same thing you said before, but framing it and describing it kind of like panels.
I feel like a panel when she's waking up, like that, like waking up stretching, good morning kind of thing, and a panel of her at breakfast, like her mom with a pan about to hand her some eggs, and then the same kind of panel of her flying to school. Maybe she's got a lunchbox in her one hand.
Sure.
The other arm out.
She has a lunchbox fist.
Wait. Oh my gosh. The lunchbox has a little mini Valor on it.
Yeah.
That's great.
So
I love it.
Yeah, it's a really nice thematic shot of just her soaring through the sky with a backpack slung over her back and her carrying a future lunchbox with a little caricature of Valor on it.
I love that. He was probably, at one point, he probably tried to do merchandise and he kept a lot for himself and he just gifted that to her, like, here, take this, spread it around, make sure everybody buys my stuff.
Right. So she flies off to school, and I would imagine that there'd probably be a panel or two of her walking the halls and just like people saying hi to her and her greeting some other kids at the school. I think that since we're getting interior shots of the school, still standard like lockers lining the walls, though you probably get into the lockers with, I almost want to say like even like biometrics, like there's like fingerprints readers on them. And
I can definitely see that.
There's some paper posters on the walls, you know, some standard school motivational posters, but you also have a few, I think, monitors or like digital billboards, you know, essentially posters that just like move. And a big hits for motivational posters and merchandising in and around Horizon City is the member of the trifecta known as Mr. Miracle, a chiseled jaw, bright white smile, blonde-haired individual who I think my favorite idea for like a school-based poster with his face on it is the Got Milk one, where it's just,
I love that.
It's the same carton of milk that we all know it hasn't changed in 150 years. And it's him giving a thumbs up and with this bright smile and a milk mustache.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is my favorite too.
And, you know, it says Got Milk, but there's others, you know, around the school where it's like his stupid face. And the saying is, it won't take a miracle to get into college. It just takes hard work and dedication. And another one where it's him in the Uncle Sam pose. And it's like, I have faith in you and stupid shit like that. But yeah, so I think we get glimpses of the school as we follow Madison throughout her school day. Obviously, she's a bit social, but she's also a hard worker in class, right?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine there might be a panel of her in lunch hanging out with some people eating, you know, food, and then maybe one of her in gym to show off her getting, you know, adequately into sports because she's a rather athletic person, just naturally, you know, based on her power set and stuff like that.
Well,
yeah. And then towards the end of the school day, we get to a scene where she's in class with, I would imagine it's a teacher that she just loathes. It is, you know, everyone knows this is common knowledge at this point. Acyyd Splash, this villain that terrorized Horizon City that your grandfather helped finally put behind bars. His son teaches at Horizon High. He probably does like study halls and stuff like that, but his main course is, I'm thinking, a course involving understanding metahumans. It's a course that is supposed to help everyone understand power sets, metahumans, people who aren't of the human race, but, you know, now exist in this world. Certain human-like alien species, people from different dimensions, you know, stuff like that, because this is a fantastic setting. A lot of stuff has happened here. It's a world of whimsy and wonder. And I think this class is definitely mandatory for people with powers. If you go to this high school and it's understood or revealed that you have superpowers or special capabilities like this, you have to take these classes because it's just one step of probably many to ensure that like kids can handle their powers without hurting people. Otherwise, I think that maybe this class is only mandatory for 1 year of the 4. So that everyone has a general understanding. But unfortunately for Madison, this is something she has to fit in all 4 years because she is a metahuman. His first name, Kevin. Was it Acyyd Splash? I think. Yeah. Great.
Kevin. As far as I figured the lore, that he does not have powers.
Yes. No, he's plain as day. Yeah, I'm going to call this class Metahuman Studies. So, yeah, we probably focus in on, as you said, Madison, you know, at her desk, almost uncharacteristically, sheepishly holding up her hand to ask a question. Was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next panel cuts to Mr. Splash, he's on the taller side, slightly broad shoulders, but he isn't particularly muscular or fat or anything like that. And he's older, you know, mid-40s, but his face just kind of sags a little bit. He always looks tired and disappointed. His eyes are a bit droopy, and his expression hardly ever changes. It's either normal or it's aggravated. And no one's ever seen anything else from him. and he has slightly longer black hair that always seems to be a little sweaty. And the panel cuts to him, and there's like a speech bubble next to him that's, it starts with an ellipses, and then it finally says, "Yes, Miss Myers."
So there's different types of metahumans?
So this is towards the end of the school year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oof. She didn't learn anything.
We cut back to Mr. Splash, and I imagine that there's like speech bubbles that come from the classroom with just like hush snickering from the question. And Mr. Splash says, "Well, it's certainly good to know that you haven't paid attention at all year." "Yes, Miss Myers, there are many different types of metahumans. I would suggest you read the book once in a while when you're not parading around attempting to save the city." And he just like turns and starts continuing on with the lesson. On the playbook, there's 5 conditions that represents.
Oh, I'm going to give myself a condition.
Yeah. How, of those 5, how is Madison feeling at this point?
Insecure?
Insecure
Perhaps.
is a good one.
Insecure because she just, like your teacher just told her off. She feels like her academic abilities were put into question. So she's not feeling too good about those.
Yeah, that's fair.
She was such a good student, and it's something that she wasn't doing well in, so she's feeling pretty bad about that.
Right, and this is probably like the only class I imagine that she's falling behind in, and it's probably mostly due to the teacher.
Yeah, I figure, honestly, even if she was doing well in the class, he probably would try to maybe bring her down somehow. So.
He totally does. We might even get like a flashback panel or 2 of her remembering other times that he just like shoots her down. So, and I think it's more often than not that she walks out of this classroom feeling insecure. Class continues until there comes a point where door to the classroom just bursts open. There's this loud bang. Mr. Splash doesn't like even stop like writing on the super cool futuristic digital chalkboard that he's using. He doesn't even glance over, but like we shoot over to all the students in the room, and that they all look surprised, and one kid in the back of the room actually falls out of his seat. We see your grandfather dressed in his Valor costume marching in just like right up to Mr. Splash, and he's being followed or accompanied by 2 police officers.
Facepalm.
Is there an actual like cutaway to Madison where she just like sees that and face palms?
Yep. There's already a teacher that doesn't like her very much.
Yeah, we see Mr. Splash say, without even turning his attention to your grandfather, "If you don't mind, I'm in the middle of a lecture. You will have to wait at least 15 more minutes for me to wrap up." Your grandfather responds, I know you helped him get out. You had something to do with it. Tell me where he is." And Mr. Splash says, "I assure you, I have no idea what you're talking." And then he gets cut off as your grandfather just like grabs him by the collar, spins him around, and Batmans him up against the wall and goes, "Where is he?"
I kind of like mutter a little like, and then I stop myself because I don't want to like bring extra attention to myself.
The cops that are, with your grandfather both put their hands on their weapons. We'll say they have non-lethal weapons, because why would future cops carry around guns? Guns kill people. This is a political statement now.
Yeah.
Like they have like future tasers, I guess. Future non-lethal tasers. And like both cops, there's like small speech bubbles coming off of them that's saying, "Are you sure you should be doing that? Or aren't you being a little aggressive?" And we see just like your grandfather hold up Mr. Splash even higher on the digital chalkboard, saying, "Acyyd Splash escaped from jail. I know you helped him. I know you had something to do with it." So I imagine that your grandfather like has him by the shoulders now and had spun him around so that they're kind of face to face.
Oh, okay.
But your grandfather's holding him up. So Mr. Splash is actually kind of like looking out at the classroom over your grandfather's head. And
Wow.
Mr. Splash, his expression doesn't change at all. It vaguely shifts to being annoyed, but even then, it's still pretty straight-faced. And he just slowly looks up and he says, Miss Myers, is this how heroes handle themselves these days? Your grandfather just throws him to the ground and says, don't you talk to my granddaughter like that. Never talk to my granddaughter again. And the police officers actually at this point move in on him and like grab his shoulders and start saying, we shouldn't be here. And one of them apologizes to Mr. Splash, saying, sorry to disrupt your class. We thought we were following a lead. Your grandfather just gives this death glare to Mr. Splash. And people in the other kids in the classroom are starting to, whisper. And a few of them are like looking over at you. What is Madison doing?
Kind of staring in disbelief that her grandfather really interrupted her class and told her teacher never to talk to her again. How is this going to work? I'm in his class. How is he not supposed to, Grandpa?
Yeah. So as Valor's being pulled out, he does look over the class and looks at you and shakes off the police officers and says, Madison, you shouldn't be here. Come on. I'm taking you out of school early.
But the class isn't over.
This man is a criminal. You shouldn't be in this class at all. And the police officer's just like, come on, we need to leave them to it. And like at this point, Mr. Splash has like stood up and started straightening himself out. And he actually he makes this, Mr. Splash makes this snide comments by saying, Miss Myers, I believe tending to a senile old man is a little bit more important than the last 15 minutes of my class. You're excused.
Come on, Grandpa.
Yeah, if you get up, you hear some other kids in the classroom like snicker.
I just kind of, but I as I do it, I glare at Mr. Splash a little bit for calling him senile, and then I pause while I do that, and then I tell him to let's go. You
walk out with your grandfather and two cops. The cops are they like step aside to talk to themselves and for a moment, and your grandfather pulls you aside and he puts a hand on your shoulder and he says, I know he had something to do with getting Splash out of prison. I just know it. There's no other way that he would have been able to get out.
I mean, he's been in there a while. Are you sure he didn't just have an elaborate plan that he was able to finally carry out? Like carrying a spoon and digging himself out?
What I'm sure of, Madison, is that like being a hero is in our genes, being a villain is in his. And that man in there is up to no good. I'm certain he had something to do with it.
He's never been nice to me. But he's still my teacher. So he probably shouldn't interrupt my class like that. Just because, my grades and stuff. Although they're not too good in there anyway.
Oh, you do fine in school. I've seen your report card. You do fine. And once you're a big name hero in the city, grades here won't really matter much. He pats you on the shoulder and he says, you're doing just fine.
My dad said grades are really important.
Well, I guess your dad can be wrong sometimes, can't he? Your destiny is to be the hero this city needs. Not some face on a got milk poster. But you were going to be the one to make real changes here. He just kind of like looks off for a moment. Like his thought process was interrupted. And then he focuses back in on you and he says, maybe today will be the first step of you stepping into the shoes of being the valor that Horizon City really needs. Come with me. And he just like turns and starts walking down the hall.
Okay.
And you start walking away and then like the cops start walking behind you and they ask, Valor, sir, we don't want to hear any complaints from the school about you coming back. And Valor just kind of like waves him off. And he said, he basically like mutters some yada yada about being a true hero. And the cops will escort you guys out. And once you guys leave the school, Valor will say, now, Sky, you and I, we're going to go to Splash's old hideout. Because if he escaped jail, the rigorous detective in me would say that he revisits his old headquarters. So you and I are going to try to flush him out. And when we find him, you are going to bring him to justice.
You think I could do that? You think we could do that? Like, alone?
I know. Because we are Valor.
We are. Oh, I hope we can. I mean, I've really only done, I've only, like, rescued children and stuff, but, like, a supervillain?
Yeah, so I imagine that he was, like, as he was talking, he was beginning to, like, walk, like, in front of you to lead the way. But when you start saying that, he stops and he turns and he, like, gets down to your level a little bit. He doesn't have to crouch much. I mean, you're a growing girl, probably.
I'm pretty tall.
Yeah, you're pretty tall, and he's an old man who probably shrunk a little bit. So his crouch is probably just, like, slightly bending at the knees. And he looks you in the eyes and he says, the V that we wear stands for being real heroes. But it's not the V that makes us heroes. It's us that brings valor to our community. Sky, you are a real hero. What the kids in there are doing, it's not for you. You are meant to fly through the skies and save people from dangerous supervillains. You're meant for great things. You're meant to help people. You're the hero this city needs, so that when I'm gone, they will all still be safe. What he's attempting to do is influence you to shift your labels. You have two choices at this point. Your grandfather, obviously being an important person in your life, has influence over you and is attempting to use that influence to shift your labels. Your two choices are to accept the label shift or to attempt to reject his influence.
I accept his influence.
Yeah. So he has this heart-to-heart with you, and he tells you that you're a hero. You're not just a regular person. You're not meant to be a regular person. You can add a +1 to Savior and a -1 to Mundane. You nod an affirmation, and he straightens up a little bit. And then he, like, holds out his arms and says, "Let's fly." And he just, like, waits for you to pick him up.
I was like, wait a minute, he can't fly.
Yeah.
Oh, right, I'm super strong, though.
Yes.
I can do this.
Yeah. I will say that he was probably totally psyched when you were able to fly, when you first started flying around.
Can I add that photo to the album?
Yes, of you flying, like your arms hooked under his, just flying around with him.
Maybe he puts out his arms like he's flying.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. He loves
like,
it.
I can finally fly.
Yeah. So why don't you describe to me, like, maybe a couple of panels of you and your grandfather flying through the city? Like, what does that look like?
It looks like probably a panel of him pointing down at something below. Probably maybe an old story, like, right there is where I did this years ago. And
oh yeah, so there's like 3 panels of him, like, pointing out 3 different locations and starting 3 different stories.
Yeah, and then as soon as another one comes up, he, like, loses where he was and starts another story.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Great. And eventually you'll arrive at the destination, like an old rundown chemical plant in a part of town that has not seen any real use in some time. So it's just been kind of let go to degrade over time. No one's picked up the property. No one's done anything with it. And he points down to that one. He says, that was Acyyd Splash's hideout for the longest time. If he broke out of jail, I bet anything that's the first place he'd go.
We should check it out then.
Yes, and do you remember what I told you? The first rule of attacking a villain's headquarters is...
always knock.
That's right. We want to be polite. If we knock, it's not trespassing, and we're doing nothing illegal.
Because even though they're superheroes, they can do all sorts of stuff. They still follow the law.
Yes, and knocking leads way to probable cause, which lets us kick in the door. So let's go. I want you to write that down. Please remember that. Attacking villain lair. Always knock. Great. I want this game to go on for like a year so that like 30 sessions from now, Sky Valor is still like, we can't just break in. We have to knock first.
But you know what that also does? It also makes my character like able to be stealthy.
Yes. Well, at least you could open the opportunity for other people to be stealthy, right? As long as you knock first, then someone can break in from the rear, I guess. So, yeah, he just like, I guess he points towards like the front door then. And, yeah, assuming you land, there's probably this nice panel of like you and him on both sides of this door. And he's like counting down like 3, 2, 1. But it's not to kick in the door. It's to politely knock. Yeah, so it's 3 panels. It's going 3, 2, 1, and then the 4th panel is just like him going knock, knock, knock. And you're both super serious about this. Like, you have your game face on.
We're ready to kick it in once they don't answer.
Yeah. And then there's the follow-up panel where nothing's being said. There's nothing happening. And then the next panel thereafter is just Valor going, break it down. And he boots in the door. Oh, God. Great. Good. I'm glad this is happening. Yeah, he kicks in the front door and you guys are able to walk into this old defunct chem plant. It's as obviously out of use as could possibly be. Like, there's thick layers of dust everywhere. There's cobwebs. The lighting in here is poor. There's some crates that were used for storage that are falling apart. And in the main room, there's giant vats that are just like in complete disuse. You guys walking in and obviously going to search through the place. And I think what will happen is both you and Valor will catch wind of a sound. Let's do glass breaking somewhere in the back of the facility. And then maybe footsteps at a different location. It quickly becomes obvious that you guys aren't actually alone here.
Oh. Did you hear that?
No, my hearing's kind of gone the wayside with age. What?
We got super sight, but you can't hear.
Yeah. So he totally says, yeah, my hearing's kind of gone, but, and then he kind of just squints and looks around. He like slowly points and says, I think I saw a shadow move, though. Keep on your guard, Sky Valor, for we are not alone today.
I guess you might have been right.
I usually am. And his eyes narrow even more. So what's the plan of approach? How do you picture you and your grandfather approaching this situation?
Back to back, walking around.
Nice. Perfect. And as you're going back to back, walking around, I think things kick off. Footsteps, a balcony near like an overseer's office, something above you, like a walkway that is always in these chemical plants because it's always super dangerous and someone always falls into a chemical vat. So there's footsteps echoing from like the metal walkway above. Both you and Valor will hear this man's voice just like call out, "He said you'd come here. Time to take him out, boys." And looking up, you see this muscle-bound individual with like an assault rifle, just leveling it down at the two of you, getting ready to fire. What do you do?
Fly?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you totally fly. So you just want to like fly up with him and do what?
Try to angle it. I don't know, so that they wouldn't be...
Oh, so you're just going to like fly up to him and like fly into him to like tackle him?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. So... essentially what you're trying to do is directly engage a threat. You're going mano a mano. You're bringing the fight to him and trying to punch him out before he can do some serious damage. To directly engage a threat, you are going to roll 2d6 and you're going to add your current danger score.
I wouldn't be able to fight the good fight with that.
You totally can. You can definitely roll with savior instead of danger.
So D20 plus savior?
Not a D20, it's 2d6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
10.
That's good. Since you got a 10, you get to choose from the following. Resist or avoid their blows. You can take something from them, or you can create an opportunity for your allies. And you get 2 of these.
I think I'll resist or avoid their blows and create an opportunity for allies.
Sky Valor. immediately springs into action, flies up, and just like flies into this guy, picking him up. And he definitely does fire in the process. You know, his assault rifle trails on Sky Valor as she flies up, and he just lets go. And do you want the bullets to just ricochet off harmlessly? Is that
Yeah, I like that.
cool? Yeah, so the bullets just bounce off of your body as she knew they would. She gets him up into the air. And I think as she gets him up into the air, and like just like the impact alone from flying into him essentially knocks him out. But as she has him up in the air, she will hear from ground level another unfamiliar voice say, "Hey, look, she has the boss." And there's looking, like glancing over her shoulder and looking down, you see your grandfather, Valor, just like rolling up his sleeves to get ready. But he's walking towards another individual with like an assault rifle. But off to the side, there's someone with some sort of weapon that seems to be attached to a tank on their back. And you're not sure if he knows that they're there. However, you get to create an opportunity for your ally, which is Valor, in this fight. What's the opportunity you create for him?
Is it like physical, or is it like alerting him that there's something behind him?
It could pretty much be anything that just kind of like kicks the situation into his favor. Oh, actually, you know what? I know what it is, because the one guy's distracted because you picked up the boss. So he's not even paying attention to Valor. He actually has his gun trained on you and doesn't seem to know that Valor's approaching. However, you do see that there does seem to be someone who's flanking Valor, the guy with that gun with the tank on his back. And you have this unconscious guy in your hand. Just to clarify, Valor's moving in on someone with an assault rifle who's trained on you. And then it looks like someone with like maybe a flamethrower or something is trained on Valor. What do you do?
I was thinking of maybe, I don't know if this would be good, but like trying to get the one guy's attention and maybe threatening or something.
So
Yeah.
I think what fits more with what you're kind of thinking about will probably be provoke someone under the basic moves. When you provoke someone susceptible to your words, which I think holding their boss, that gives you kind of the credit in this for provoking someone anyways. Tell me what you're trying to get them to do, and then you'll roll some dice.
So the guy that was flanking, I would like to tell him to drop his weapon. Yeah, I have your boss. If you want to see him live, then drop your weapon.
Oof, dark. Straight to the point. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, my dad probably wouldn't approve of me saying that, but...
No, it's gritty. I like it. You're the gritty reboot to the Valor line.
I probably wouldn't actually do it.
Right.
But I'm doing it. I'm saying it.
So, yeah, okay. In that case, roll me 2d6, and you're adding your superior.
10.
So on a 10 or more, they take the bait and do exactly what you want. So perfect. In this case, yeah, the one guy, the guy with the flamethrower, like he's just about to torch Valor, and you call out to him. You say what you said, and he glances up, and it's like we get a close up of him, and it's like he just realized that you in an instant took out his boss. So he like grits his teeth and sets down his gun because he told him to drop his weapon. He just like throws off the tank backpack he was wearing, and it collapses to the ground with a thud. And he holds up his hands, and he's just staring at you. But then there's a rat-a-tat-tat from an automatic weapon being fired off in your direction, as the other guy seems to be much less concerned about hitting his boss or you having his boss. But I think the shot goes wide as you glance over to him, and you see just like one swift right hook drop from Valor, drops the other dude with the assault rifle straight to the ground. And in that panel, there's that thok sound effect written out. Just like that, everything is still in the room.
I feel like they would have like the police on speed dial.
Oh, you feel like the Valors would have the police on speed dial?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. If there is such a...
Yeah, I mean, you recognized heroes in the city. The police department's been working with Valor and Laser Valor, and to probably some degree you by this point.
So whatever there is, like a smartwatch or a chip that's in your arm or something. I feel like I'd have like a watch.
Oh, I mean, yeah, smartwatches are probably definitely a thing too. So you can begin dialing in, and as you're like dialing for the police or hitting the button to get in touch with your contact at the police, a speech bubble interjects in that panel, and it's your grandfather just saying like, "Where is he?" again. And we cut to him in the exact same pose, holding this guy, the flamethrower guy, up against the wall, just like he did Mr. Splash earlier. And he's just like shaking the dude. And your grandfather just like, "You're taking orders from him. You tried not only to hurt me, but to hurt my granddaughter as well. You're going to tell me where he is." Like the text is all bold and caps. And at one point, he just like slams his fist into the wall right next to this dude's head, and the wall just dents and starts cracking. And he just keeps yelling at this guy. There's a follow-up panel where the guy he has up against the wall says, just like in like a small speech bubble, "I ain't no snitch. I'm not telling you shit." And then he like punches the wall again, and he says, "There's only so many times that I'll miss your head. Tell me where he is." And why don't you, I'm going to ask you to make a die roll in this case. I'm going to ask you to make a Pierce the Mask roll.
I was thinking maybe that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, so why don't you give me, it's 2d6, and you get to add your mundane to it.
Oh, great. That went down. 7.
You get to ask one of the Pierce the Mask questions, which consist of, I'm assuming you're piercing the mask on your grandfather, just because he seems to be getting pretty intense. So what are you really planning? What do you want me to do? What do you intend to do? How could I get you to do blank? And how could I gain influence over you?
What do you intend to do?
Okay, yeah. So you're watching your grandfather do this, and you're just like picking up cues from his tone of voice and how he's acting. Like it becomes almost too obvious. Your grandfather thinks that this man he's holding up has the answer he's looking for, and you again feel it in your gut that maybe he's even willing to go a little too far in pursuit of that information. Like this man might die.
Okay. Was I able to call the police before this, or?
I think you were just like in the process. So like
okay.
you study your grandfather, and like you're watching him, and there's probably this moment of realization where it's like, oh wow, he's losing it a little bit. And then like from the corner of that panel, that's like a close up of Sky's face. It's a little speech bubble from her watch saying, "Hello, this is Horizon City Police Department. Detective Blake. Detective Blake is your contact at the police department."
Hey, Detective Blake. We got some criminals here that need to be taken into custody.
Ah, yes, some criminals, you say? Well, I've picked you up on GPS, and we'll be there pronto.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
Thanks
problem.
again.
You finish your conversation with Detective Blake, and then you hear this awful cracking sounds as you just like look up, and your grandfather had just dislocated this dude's arm from his shoulder. And the guy's just like screaming in pain, and your grandfather's still shaking him, just going, "Tell me where he is. Tell me."
Do you think I could symbol of authority my grandfather?
I think you totally can, because I think that your grandfather absolutely respects the Valor legacy. And I think this is super applicable for tons of reasons. Yeah. So
definitely the right time for that.
I agree. Yeah. So give me 2d6 plus savior.
Okay. Thank God for my high savior. I got a 7.
You got a 7. Okay. So what does she say to utilize symbol of authority?
She'll go up closer to him, like in his line of sight, but not like directly where he's engaging this guy, and say that if you respect our family, then you should not harm him.
And yeah, so I think like just as you were starting to talk, he had like pulled his fist back one more time, and then you started saying that, and he just like froze listening to you. And then there's this moments of just like realization. Like I imagine he has this guy pinned up against the wall, and Sky Valor is off to the side, like off to his right side. He's looking straight at this dude. You say all that, and then he just like looks down and lowers the fist and just like lets the guy slump to the ground. And Valor's gaze lowers, and he just mutters, "Splash was my greatest victory. Getting rid of Splash was my legacy." And
I'm your legacy now.
he glances over at you, Sky Valor.
I put my hands on my hips heroically.
He slowly nods and says, That you are.
We'll catch him.
This old coot can't retire until he's behind bars again. Maddie, I know that you'll do everything you can to make sure that Acyyd Splash is locked up.
Of course. It's our family, the family business.
He walks over and pulls you into a hug. And his thought bubble at that point, as he pulls you into a hug, is, she's right. She is my legacy.
Aww. Wholesome again.
Yeah. And I think that's the last panel of the issue. That's where it ends. It's just Valor, your grandfather, with this content look on his face, having been on the brink of crossing the line and then being pulled back by what's essentially the best parts of him. You.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah. And that's that. That's the end of the prelude, but the beginning of a multitude of stories.
I love that. That was great.
Yeah, it seems to be working out pretty well. Mr. Critically Accursed here, coming in at the end of the issue to say that I hope you enjoyed our prelude to The Legacy. Special thanks not only to you, yes, you, for sticking around and listening to our content, but also to the best of us, me, Matt, for his assistance in editing this one. It cut my editing time down by half, so I super appreciated it. Also, I don't remember if I mentioned this in any of our other Prelude things, but our Prelude audios were typically recorded through Discord audio. The intros and the story content I do at the beginning of these episodes and the outros are all recorded in post using different recording methods, and a lot of people have different microphones. So if you notice sound quality difference, in these first episodes, that's probably why. We should be a lot more uniform starting at issue 6 forward, but our entire podcast is a work in progress, and there's a learning curve, and we're all getting used to a lot of things. So if you're sticking around and listening to all this, thank you so much, and thank you for your patience. I hope that our content is worth it. If it wasn't, then you're probably not even listening to me right now, so it doesn't really matter. Anyways, if you enjoyed this issue, then rejoice. We have one more prelude coming up, The Transformed. And after that, we plan to kick off our first story arc in Horizon Volume 1. For those of you who think that we're pretty cool, or anyone out there with a love of tabletop games, superheroes, podcasts, or just making internet friends, please feel free to comment on this issue. You can also reach me on Twitter at Accursed. You can also contact Danielle on Twitter if you want. She's the player of Sky Valor. Her handle is at Dixie_star66. That's at DIXIE_STAR6. You can also email the entire Critically Accursed podcast crew at criticallyaccursed@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Well, not see you. We'll talk to you. Talk at you. We'll do something to you next time. Okay, bye.